Hello everybody, it's Hero from the Birds, and I'd like to make a quick UI video to just help you think a little bit about that first stage of building up a good user interface that is useful to you as a player in PvE content in WoW. And I want to emphasize three main things when I'm talking about UI in this video, and these are things that are associated with any kind of rotational play. By rotational play, I mean the buttons that you're looking at that have very much to do with every single action you're taking moment to moment. I don't mean the items that you might think of as a utility piece that you might be press once or twice or 4 or 5 times in an encounter, or if they have a very niche use that you need to make use of. That'll be covered in a different video. In this video, I want to look at mainly things that a DPS player, a healer, or a tank would be pressing all the time and want some indication of, and how should we go about doing that. So my advice is to keep it very concise. You can see here I'm using Tell Me When. You could use weak ors that I have in this top line, the main rotational information that I'd like to see. In addition to that, I track my holy power in a very simplified way just by giving me the number right in front of me, right below my character. And all of this information is presented right in this central location, which is prime real estate as far as the eye is concerned in World of Warcraft. Some of you will have a UI that is messed up from other previous expansions or bloated from having all kinds of abilities all over the place. I'd suggest for this first one piece of your rotational play, whether it's a healer tracking Riptides or Disc Priest tracking Rapture, or Blood DKs tracking Vampiric Blood, anything that's going to be very important for you as far as rotation is concerned should be in one sort of central part of your UI. And the reason for this is because it takes a lot more energy and effort for your eye to travel to the corners of your screen to grab information and then come back to your central concern. This is especially true for all of the melee DPS classes, who are generally right beside a boss and therefore don't have the luxury of a lot of time moving their eye away from the center off to the corner and then back to the center to deal with some kind of ground mechanic. Ranged usually have a little bit more leeway and are preferred in some regards in raids because of that. Not only do they have a little bit of time to see where everything is in the room, but they can more easily track those things due to the way in which a lot of casters have a rotational piece that has some kind of cast bar associated with it. So casting Frostbolt, for example, that time in which you're casting Frostbolt allows your eye those moments to move around the screen. Nevertheless, for all classes and all specs, it's important to have, at least for your rotational side, some semblance of concision in the center of the area where your eye is going to look at it. You can see here all my spell listings and abilities are off to the left. These are my generic bars. That's only because I make them invisible when I play. You don't need to do that, but really central to our concern today is just to think about what this information does for you when it's centralized. On this first line, it gives me exactly from left to right the most important things I want to be tracking. And for you, this might be a really, really important 6-second cooldown spell that you're going to be hitting all the time as a DPS or as a healer, and you can't miss pressing that button. It's rotational, it provides you the most resources, something like that. And these might shift around in priority depending on what your talents are doing, but regardless, in terms of this rotational bar, you want to set it up in a way that the most important information is in the exact right spot in this. For some of you, that'll be right at the center. Some will prefer a right to left configuration. Others might have something left to right. It's your choice, of course, but in just thinking about advice for how to improve your gameplay, the rotational side will get a lot of value from you having this information front and center and having a way to display it that makes sense and is very clear for your eye right away as you're doing it. So you can see here my holy power generation, which funnels for my spender. I have as almost one of my most important pieces of information as a paladin class, because it is all of my damage and all of my utility as well is very much tied to the production of these things and the spending of it in all three of my specs. So for Paladin, Holy Power Generation has a serious premium as far as the space on my computer. And this will be true for other classes too, like if I'm playing a Destro Warlock, it will also be really important, or a Demo Warlock, to have the shards that you're generating, or the souls, also very central, because that builder-spender style It necessitates you having a clear grasp of how much you have to work with. And again, on the rotational side, I put the most important ones I'd like, generally speaking, from left to right. I hope this helps you start to think a little bit about how to work on your UI. I know this is from the perspective of a DPS player, but the principles apply across the board. When you're thinking about just that one narrow element of rotational play, you need to have it very clear and concise, very centralized, so that your eye doesn't get strained by moving all over your screen looking for information. And this will continue to be a theme for other videos, but I just wanted to make the first one about rotational play so you get a little bit of a sense of where we're going with this series. Okay, thanks very much for watching. We'll see you next time.